So disposal of the non-current asset. Let's try to understand what does that mean first, this word. Remember that disposal means sell. Now, why we call it disposal, there is a reason for that. For example, when you do a business, when you sell goods or anything, we call it sell. For example, if we are a trading company, when you make a sales, we called it sales. But the reason we called it disposal, that is a little bit different from the sales. So what is the difference? Disposal is for capital asset. Disposal is for capital assets. Now, what is capital assets? Capital asset means the asset we buy with the intention to use it in the business, but not to sell it. So if we buy any asset with the intention that we're going to use in the business, but not with the intention to sell it, we called it capital asset. For example, let's say we have a business and we sell, for example, chocolates. Now, if we sell chocolate, we still need furniture, we still need computer, but selling the computer or selling the furniture is not our business. So to decorate our shop or to do the logistics, we need like a car, we need a computer. So this sort of supporting furniture or the equipment we need in order to carry on the business. For that reason, if we buy any sort of asset that will be used in the business, but not with the intention to sell it, we call it capital asset. Now, of course, like any sort of capital asset, that can be on the financial statement, and if we sell this asset in future, we call it disposal. So if we sell this asset in future, we call them disposal. So that means any sort of capital asset that we sell, not with the intention to make the profit, but if we just sell it, and if we make some profit or loss, doesn't matter. If we sell it, we call it disposal. So now we understand the difference between the disposal and sell. So disposal represent when we sell in fixed asset, but on the other hand, the sell represent only the income. So if I sell any goods to the customer, that my daily activities, we call it sales. But if we sell any sort of, for example, capital asset, we call it disposal. So for example, if I have a chocolate business, if I sell chocolate every day, we call it sales. But if one day I sell my computer because I need to buy the new one, then we call it disposal. So this is the difference between the sell and the disposal. Now let's move on to the chapter overview. Let's have a look what we have on the chapter overview. So we can see here the chapter overview, a list of all tangible non-current asset owned by a business, a list of all tangible asset. Now, tangible non-current asset. Tangible means the asset we can physically see or we can physically touch. For example, furniture, computer, car, land and building. So any sort of asset that we can physically see or touch, we call it tangible. On the other hand, we have some intangible asset as well. For example, goodwill, patent, copyright, software. This sort of asset, either we cannot see or either we cannot touch. So it is called intangible asset. And the non-current asset means the fixed asset. Non-current asset means the asset we use at least for 12 months. So if any asset we use at least 12 months, we call it non-current asset. Then the next one we have includes information such as, so this belongs to non-current asset register. What is non-current asset register? So when you buy any sort of non-current asset or fixed asset, we record in a book. So we record in a book. So any sort of non-current asset, when you buy, we record in a book because we need to know how many assets we have buy so far, how many assets we have sold, and how many assets we have in the business. For that reason, we have to have a record of all the non-current asset. Now, when you have all the non-current asset, we record in a book. Now, when I say book, it doesn't mean it has to be written in a paper. It could be in a software, it could be in Excel. So anywhere you write it down, but we have to follow a specific template. So you're going to see how to record all of this. So record in a book the non-current asset. Now, what sort of information has to be recorded on this book? So the name of the item, for example, if I buy a printer, it will be printer and the serial number. The reason we need to write the serial number because we can have more than one printer. We can have more than one computer. We can have more than one asset. For that reason, we have to write the name and the serial number both. The date of acquisition. Acquisition means purchase. The date we purchased that non-current asset. Cost of acquisition, how much we paid for that. The cost of acquisition, how much we paid for that. Depreciation charge, how much is the yearly depreciation? So we need to know the depreciation method. We need to use that depreciation method to find it out how much is the depreciation and how much is the carrying value and how much is the accumulated depreciation. Then carrying value. Carrying value means the cost minus depreciation. So from the cost, if we take away all the depreciation, the balance we have, we called it carrying value. Then you have to record the funding method. What is the funding method? Funding method is all about how did we make the purchase? What was the option we have used to make the purchase? Did we pay immediately everything cash? Or did we pay later on? Did we buy the asset with the loan? Did we buy the asset with the lease? So what sort of finance option we use, we're going to record there. Disposal date and the proceed. So for example, if I sold any non-current asset, so I need to know when did we sold it, so the date of the disposal and how much we sold it for. So all this information has to be recorded on the non-current asset register. The template, how we're going to record, we're going to see later on. Then we have disposal of non-current asset. Disposal of non-current asset. So disposal means sell, as I said before. Disposal means we sold a non-current asset. Now, when you sold a non-current asset, it is possible I can make a profit or I can make a loss. So when you make a disposal, it is possible I can make a gain. We don't say it profit because it is not from the trading business. It is from the capital asset or from the non-current asset. For that reason, we called it gain. Gain or loss on disposal. Gain or loss on disposal. It is possible when I sell the non-current asset, I can make a gain. It is possible I can make a loss as well. How did we find it out that? So we find the proceed. Proceed means how much you sold it for, the selling price, less the carrying amount. Carrying amount means how much is the value of the asset currently. Now to find the carrying amount, we have to do cost less depreciation or accumulated depreciation. And that will give us the carrying value. And if you minus the carrying value from the selling price, that will tell us I'm making a gain, that means profit, or I'm making a loss. The next one, we have accounting entries. So how do we record if we make a disposal? If I sell a non-current asset, how we record in the form of debit or credit or through the journals. So when we sell an asset, this asset not belongs to me anymore. So this asset has to be go from my financial statement. So if I sell an asset, that means this asset is not with me anymore. So that means I have to remove it from my accounts, from my records. How do you do that? So normally when we buy an asset, so the first one is says, remove the cost of the asset. Remove the cost of the asset. Now, when we buy an asset, normally we record through the journal. We said asset is debit. Now, the asset name can be anything. For example, it could be a computer, it could be a car, it could be a land and building, could be anything. So asset will be debit. And how did you buy it? If I pay cash or bank, so the bank will be credit. So this is happened when you buy a non-current asset. When you buy. Now later on, when we sell this asset, then we have to do the opposite journal because this asset is not anymore with my business. For that reason, we have to say now asset will be credit. So the asset will be credit. It was before debit. Now we have to make it credit. And why the asset is not with me? Because of the disposal, I sold it. For that reason, disposal will be debit and the asset will be credit. So the debit and credit will be cross each other. So the asset will be gone because I make credit now with the same amount. How much was the cost? So that's how we need to remove the cost of the asset. The next step is remove the accumulated depreciation charged to that. Now, obviously, if the asset is gone, the depreciation that is belongs to that asset also has to be gone. So, for example, if I have a furniture, and if the furniture is gone because I sold it, then I will not keep the depreciation for that furniture. So the depreciation also need to go. So normally, the accumulated depreciation is a credit. Now, if we say how we record the depreciation, number 2. So normally the depreciation is debit and accumulated depreciation is credit. But when we sold the asset, if the asset is gone, we have to remove the accumulated depreciation. Now I have to do the opposite entry. So what I'll say now, I'll say disposal will be credit, but accumulated depreciation will be debit. Depreciation is debit and disposal is credit. So you can say before the accumulated depreciation was credit, now I make it debit. So debit and credit will be gone. So no more depreciation for that asset. Why? Because of the disposal, I sold that asset. Step number 3, account for the sale proceed. Account for the sale proceed. Now it is possible when I sell that non-current asset, either I receive some cash or I did some part exchange. What does that mean, part exchange? Part exchange means you give your old asset to have the new one. For example, if you have an old computer, so you give the old computer to the supplier and you take the new one, and maybe you give some additional money with that old computer. For example, sometimes when we buy the new phone, we give our old one to get the new one, and we give some money so that we can have the old one little bit less price. So account for the proceed. Now it is possible when we sell, we can get cash or we can have the new asset. This depends. If we receive money because we sold the non-current asset, So we called bank is debit because money is coming to the bank. And why? Because of the disposal. Disposal is credit. So bank is debit and disposal is credit. Finally, step number 4, we need to look at, do I make any profit, that means gain or loss, by selling this asset? So balance of the disposal account to find the gain or loss on disposal. Balance of the disposal account to find the gain or loss on the disposal. So I need to find it out. Do I make any gain or loss by selling this non-current asset? Now you can see here we have the format to find it out. Did I make a gain or loss? Then you have a part exchange. Replace the sale proceed in step 3 with the part exchange. Complete the entry for purchase of the new asset. So the asset is step number 3. It is possible we can give the old asset to have the new one. So in this case, there will be no cash coming to the business. So there will be no bank. It will be the new asset. So this is the story of our disposal of non-current assets. So all of this thing we're going to see from these chapters. Any question from anyone so far? The explanation we did. Anyone have any confusion, anything we can discuss? Otherwise, we can move on to the chapters in detail and try to do some questions. Everyone happy with that? All right, very good. So let's move on then. So we have some journals that we discussed before, but remember we have to memorize these journals because in the exam it will not be given, and that will be definitely in the exam. So remove the cost of the asset, disposal debit, non-current asset credit, we discussed that. Remove the accumulated depreciation debit, disposal credit. Account for the sales proceed, bank debit, disposal credit. So all of these 3 journals we have discussed. All right, now let's move on to our activity 1. So let's have a look. How much is the gain or profit we make, loss we make from this disposal? So I'll give you 10 minutes to have a look this question and try to do some workings. And after that, we will check it together. So we'll see how much you understand. So I'll give you 10 minutes to do some workings. And after that, we'll do it together. Anyone have any number? Like how much is the gain or loss? Let's try this question. Say the business brought a machine for 6,000 and has held it for 2 years. So the purchase cost is 6,000 and we have used this machine for 2 years. That means we have to calculate the depreciation for 2 years. The machine is sold in year 3 for 3,000. So in year number 3, we sold it for 3,000. The business depreciates its machine on a diminishing balance basis at a rate of 40%. If you don't know what is diminishing balance that we have done last week, you need to make sure you revise. We have 2 types of depreciation method. One is a straight line and one is diminishing balance. It's quite straightforward and easy, but you have to revise the chapter number 4 if you forget that. No depreciation is charged in the year of disposal. That means the year we sold the asset, on that year, we are not going to charge any depreciation. So it will be only 2 year depreciation, not on the 3rd year, because this year we are selling the asset. The business has a policy of capitalizing non-current asset expenditure over 500. So if the cost is more than 500, only that time we're going to capitalize the asset. And here the cost is more than 500 because it's 6,000. So it's quite understandable, like this asset will be capitalized because it is more than 500. Requirement: calculate the gain or loss on disposal of the machine. So we need to calculate the gain or loss on disposal of the machine. Place a tick in the relevant box to denote whether the amount is gain or loss. So we need to tick here either it is gain or loss. Show how the disposal would be accounted for in the ledger account. So we need to do the ledger account as well. All right. So let's find it out, gain or loss first. So you can see our cost is 6,000 and we sold it for 3,000. So we need to use the formula. So we said proceed. Proceed means sold for 3,000 pounds. We have to minus less the carrying value. Now the carrying value have another working, so we need to know how to find it out, the carrying value. Carrying value means cost minus accumulated depreciation. So find it out how much it is. The cost is 6,000 and we have used for 2 years. We need to find it out how much is the depreciation in 2 years. So first year depreciation, first year. So we need to do 6,000 times 40%, the depreciation, 40%. And this gives me how much? So 6,000 times 40%, it gives me 2,400. So 2,400 we minus from here. And the carrying value after the 1 year, it is 3,600. So end of the year number 1, the carrying value is 3,600. But we have used it for 2 years, so we need to do 1 more year. So second year. So we do this time 3,600 times 40%. And that will give us 1,440. And after 2 years, my carrying value is 2,160. So that's how we need to find it out, the carrying value. If I use for 3 years, I have to do 1 more year. So you need to know how to calculate or how to find it out, the carrying value from the cost after deducting the accumulated depreciation. Also need to be careful with the depreciation method. If I use the straight line, the depreciation remains same every year. But if I use the diminishing balance, the depreciation is keep changing or reducing every year. So now I'm going to minus this one, 2,160 from my proceed, 2,160. And this difference is my gain. So the difference between these two, 840. That's the gain. Remember that if my sale or proceed is more than the carrying value, then it is a gain. If my sale or proceed less than the carrying value, then it will bring me the loss. So here I sold it for 3,000, but the value of the machine 2,160. So I make some profit, I make some gain. So he said 840 pound, we make a gain. All right, so any question from anyone from this gain calculation? Anyone have any confusion how to calculate the gain? You can ask me now before I move to the next requirement to account the ledger account. All right, very well done. Let's move to the next one then, how to record on the ledger account. The first one, we need to do machine at cost. So this machine has to go because we sold it. So if we sold the machine or if we dispose the machine has to go. If you remember the journal, that will be disposal debit and machine at cost will be credit. So on the credit side, we're going to write disposal. If you don't remember your ledger account, how to do it, make sure you revise that. So ledger account represent the individual account and the balances. So disposal is 6,000. So the first journal we have recorded on our ledger account. The next one we have machine accumulated depreciation. So remember the machine accumulated depreciation. The accumulated depreciation was normally credit, but now I'll make it debit. So accumulated depreciation is debit and disposal is credit. So I'm going to write opposite disposal. And that is 3840. And finally, have a disposal account. So let's do that. So the first journal was disposal is debit and non-current asset is credit. So on the first journal, we're going to write machine at cost. The cost was 6,000, so you need to write 6,000. The next journal was disposal credit and accumulated depreciation debit. So on the credit side, I'm going to write accumulated depreciation. That was 3840. And finally, we sold it for £3,000. So the bank was debit and disposal credit. So on the credit side, we're going to write bank. And we received 3,000 on our bank account. So you can see here, if we added these two, it will give me 6840. Here 6,000. The difference 840 because of the gain. If you remember, we make a gain. So gain on disposal 840. And that gives me total 6840. That's how we record the journal into the ledger account. All right, any question from anyone from this one? No? Okay. Why the bank is credit? The bank is not credit, James. Bank is a debit, but it is a disposal account. Disposal is credit. For that reason, on the credit side, we write bank because this account belongs to disposal. If you remember the ledger account, we write the opposite thing. So bank is debit, disposal credit. But this account belongs to disposal. So that's why on the credit side, we write bank. If it is not on the list, it will be on the profit and loss account. Gain on disposal belongs to profit and loss account. So it will be profit and loss account. If we make any profit or loss, it will go to the profit and loss account. You have to choose the profit and loss here. Got it, Ramel? Happy with that, James, with the ledger account? Okay. And let's move to the next one. The next one is the part exchange. Part exchanges happen when we got the when you have asset to sold, but this time we don't receive any cash, but we receive the new asset. So we give our old one to have the new one. And it is possible at the same time you have to pay some money as well, because maybe the new one will be expensive. So here, other thing is okay, only the disposal here you can see with the part exchange. This time is the new asset, because this time no money will come to the bank because we are not receiving any money, but we are receiving the new asset. So that's why you called it a new asset. Okay, let's do one example. Let's see if we can understand this. Activity 2. disposal of a machine, but this time it is part exchange. Say assume in activity 1, disposal of a machine for cash, that instead of cash proceed 3,000, there is a part exchange allowance 3,000 and a replacement machine cost 10,000. So they're saying, just think they didn't give us any cash, but we took a replacement asset and the replacement asset cost is 10,000. So how much you still need to pay? Because if the replacement asset is 10,000 and if they give the value of my old machine is 3,000, so that means 7,000 I still need to pay from the bank for the new asset, because the new asset cost is 10. I'm not going to pay 10,000 because 3,000 will be exchanged because of my old machine. So I'll pay 7,000 for that. And that time the supplier will not give me any cash because I'm not selling, I'm changing the asset. So let's try to do that. The gain or loss. The gain or loss remains same. Remember that. Even if we don't receive any cash, but the proceed will be still 3,000. So it will be considered as a sale because you are replacing, even though you are not receiving any cash, but it will be still considered as a proceed, as a sale. So that means it will be still treated as a sale, and our gain will be still same. That will be 840, the same way we have calculated before the gain. Because it is a regardless, I receive the money or not, but how much is the value is considered for the sale. This is the main thing. Number B says calculate the amount of cash paid for the new machine. Calculate the amount of cash paid for the new machine. Is quite simple. How much you paid, because the new machine cost was 10,000 and the old machine the value is 3,000. So still I need to pay 7,000. So I need to pay 7,000. So I need to pay cash for the new machine 7,000, because out of 10,000, 3,000 will be compensated because of my old machine. Then we have the same thing, the ledger account. So old machine cost, it will be disposal, same thing. Disposal 6,000. Accumulated depreciation will be debit. On the debit side, it will be disposal. Same thing, the one we done before, 3840. Only this time there will be no bank, but it will be the new asset. For the new asset, you can see this one, this time it is not the disposal or not the bank, because we received the new asset. So new asset is always debit. On the debit side, we're going to write 2. One for the disposal. So by disposal of the old machine, we received 3,000 pounds. And also from the bank, we paid 7,000. So we said bank 7,000. So this is the total of 10,000. And this is our balance CD. Balance CD 10,000. Remember, if any asset belongs to, or if any item or entity belongs to SFP, that is a statement of financial position, we always do the balance CD and BD. If any item belongs to SPL, that is a statement of profit and loss account, we don't do balance CD BD, we do profit and loss account. Okay, with the disposal, this time I'm not going to write any bank because obviously this time is a new asset coming. So the first one is the old machine. The reason I'm writing the old machine because there is 2 machines now. One is old and one is new. Old machine 6,000 is gone. Then accumulated depreciation for the old machine, that is 3840, exactly the same thing we done before. And this time, if you remember last time we said bank here, but this time it's not going to be bank, it will be the new machine, 3,000. It will be 6840. 6840, and it will be profit and loss account because it is belongs to SPL. The gain 840 will be here. That's it. Only the difference here, this time it is a new machine, not the bank. Other than everything is okay. All right, any question from this one, from anyone? No, very good. Let's move to the next one then. The next one we have here, the van part exchange. So let's try that. It's the van, how much is the accumulated depreciation and the disposal account. So I'll give you 10 minutes to read the question and try to do some workings. And after that, we'll do it together. This question is says, during the year of a business part exchange some van. The original cost of the van was 16,000. So this is my cost. 4-year depreciation has been applied. So you need to calculate the depreciation for 4 years. Depreciation is provided over 6 years, a straight line. So straight line method for 6 years, useful life. The estimated residual value of the van was 1,000. And part exchange is 5,200 was given. 18,000 was paid from the bank for the new van. Okay. The first question is calculate the accumulated depreciation. So how much is the total depreciation for the 4 years? So let's try to do it. The first thing we need to do, how much is the depreciation per year? So how do you do that? We do cost minus residual value divide useful life. So I need to calculate that. The cost is 16,000. The residual value is 1,000. And the useful life is 6 years. So 15 divided by 6, that gives me 2,500 per year. So the depreciation per year is 2,500. So they said 4 years depreciation will be applied. So if you multiply by 4, that will give me depreciation for the 4 year. So 2,500 per year times by 4, this gives me 10,000. So total accumulated depreciation is 10,000. Very careful with the depreciation method. If the question asks you diminishing balance, so you have to calculate different way. If the question asks you for the straight line, so depreciation per year will be same. Okay, let's do the next thing. The next one is says complete the disposal account. So let's try to do the disposal account. The first thing, the old van that we have purchased, that has to go because we sold that, so we don't have it anymore. So you're going to say disposal is debit and the van is credit. So van at cost, the van we sold, 16,000. This one has to go because we sold it. We don't have this van anymore. Then also the depreciation need to go. The depreciation, accumulated depreciation will be debit and disposal credit. So on the credit side, we're going to write accumulated depreciation. And this is 10,000 that we have calculated. Then we need to see how much is the carrying value of the van. And we need to see, did I make a loss or gain? Now, if you remember, we have a part exchange value, how much it is. The part exchange value was 5,200. Part exchange value means it is actually sold value. Part exchange value means actually the selling value. So we're going to say proceed. Proceed is 5,200 and you have to minus the carrying value. You have to minus the carrying value. And for the carrying value, you have to do some workings. So cost minus depreciation is the carrying value. So the cost was 16,000 and the accumulated depreciation was 10,000. So 16 minus 10, it gives me 6,000. So carrying value was 6, but I sold it for 5,200. So I sold less than the carrying value. So that will bring me the loss because my asset have a value of 6,000, but actually I sold it for 5,200. So that gave me a loss of 800. So I'm going to write the van at cost. This is the van at cost. This the van is part exchange, 5,200. And the profit and loss account, that is 800. So this is the combination of total 16,000. So that means the asset we had 1,600, we sold it, and the depreciation was 10. So asset value was 6,000, but we sold it for only 5,200, and we have a loss of 800 by selling this one. So remember that it will be in the exam how to remove the non-current asset. So make sure you memorize all the journal, and how to record in the ledger account is very important. All right, so any question from this one from anyone before I move to the next one? Okay, so let's move to the next one then. So the next one, we have part exchange of a machine. I think I can leave this one your homework. It's the same thing. So homework, you can do this one on your after your lunch. So homework, part exchange of a machine. It's the same question, the way we have practiced before. So you need to do the same way. Okay, the next point that we're going to now do is the non-current asset register that I have said at the beginning. Like we have to record all the non-current asset, and so we have to record in a template. So we have a template where we have to record all the non-current asset. So what we're going to use for, what sort of information we need for that? So we said we need the item and serial number. We need the location of the asset, because it is possible you have a different branches of your business, and it is possible like one asset have one location, another asset have another location. So you need to know where the asset is. For example, if you have some computer in Birmingham branches, if you have some computer on London branches, we need to know where it is. The department responsible for the asset, which department is responsible for the asset, so under which department. For example, if you give the computer to the finance department or ICT department, so you have to know which department is responsible, asset type, cost, what type of asset it is, then cost, how much is the cost, funding method, how did you buy it? For example, you paid by cash or lease or loan, how did you buy it? Acquisition date, when did you buy it, the date of purchase. Depreciation policy, what type of depreciation policy we are using. Are we using a straight line? Are we using the diminishing balance? We're going to see all of this from there. Depreciation charge to debt, that means the accumulated depreciation. How much is the total depreciation till today? Carrying value, how much is the carrying value? Carrying value means cost minus accumulated depreciation. And that will give us the carrying value. Says ultimately, the non-current asset register will also show the disposal date and any proceed received on disposal of the asset. So when did we sell any asset, if we sold it, and how much we sold it for? Now we can see how the non-current asset register look like. So we can have a look how the non-current asset register look like. So it says example of non-current asset register. We can see the description or serial number, then acquisition date, when did you buy it, the date of purchase, cost, how much you paid, depreciation, how much is the depreciation per year, the carrying amount, how much is the carrying value, how much currently the asset carrying the value, funding method, how did you buy, disposal proceed, if you sold it, how much you sold it, and on which date we sold it. Now let's have a look. The first one, it says office equipment. Office equipment. Now you can see office equipment means that we have a printer here, and we can have a computer, but every single item is come with the serial number. You can see the name is the ledger printer, and we have a serial number. Now we buy it on 20th of August 2017, and we paid £6,000 for that. So the cost was £6,000. How did you buy it? We buy it through the loan. The next year, at the end of the year 31st of December 17, we have a depreciation 1200. So cost minus depreciation, that give us the carrying value 4800. 6,000 minus the depreciation 1200, that will give us the carrying value. Then year number 2, at the end of the year number 2, again the depreciation is 1200. So 4800 minus the depreciation, thus give me the carrying value 3600. Year number 3, again the depreciation is 1200. So 3600 minus 1200, that gave me the carrying value 2400. You can see the depreciation is same every year because we are using the straight line method. If it's diminishing, the depreciation will keep reducing every year. Next one, we can see here we have an inkjet printer, acquisition date, the date we buy it, 22nd of May, cost is 400, and we buy through cash. Year end, depreciation charge 80, and the carrying amount 320. So then next year we can see there is a no depreciation and no carrying value because we sold the asset. You can see on the disposal, we sold it for £150, and we sold on 31st of December. So the reason we sold the asset, there is no depreciation. The question will tell us, are we going to charge any depreciation on the year of disposal or not? So we need to be very much careful of that. Then we have the motor vehicle. The motor vehicle, we can see the first motor vehicle we have, the acquisition date, when did you buy it, the cost, how much you paid, and how did you buy it, part exchange. That means we give our old asset to have the new one. The depreciation charge is 2000, and the carrying value is 6,000. So cost minus depreciation, that is 8,000 minus 2,000, it will give us the carrying value 6,000. So that's how we have to complete all these boxes based on the asset we have. This one will be definitely in the exam for 12 marks. It's a confirmed question you're going to see. That will be your question number 1 in the exam. All right, let's move on. So this is an example. Now we're going to maybe do one question. Okay, let's try the first bit. Activity 5, non-current asset register. A business has a policy of capitalizing non-current asset expenditure over £300. Ignore the VAT depreciation. If any asset, the value is more than £300, we're going to capitalize it. That means we're going to record it on the non-current asset register. If any asset value less than £300, we're not going to record it on the non-current asset register. The first one says requirement identify by placing a tick in the relevant box. Which of the item below should be recorded in the non-current asset register? Which of the item below should be recorded in the non-current asset register? We have a motor van. So it says the motor van cost £6,000. That means it is more than 300. Funded using a loan. So motor van is a non-current asset. Remember that. Any asset that we can use more than 1 year, it is a non-current asset. So motor van we can record on the register. The answer is yes. So if you buy a motor car, we have to record on the non-current asset register. The next one we have here, optional insurance taken out on the above van for cost 350 paid in cash. Remember that insurance is not a capital expenditure. Insurance is not an asset. And insurance is not part of the asset because insurance can be taken, can not be taken. It's optional, it's not mandatory. So if the insurance is not mandatory, that means without insurance, I can still have the motor van or the asset. So for that reason, I cannot capitalize it or I cannot add the insurance as a part of the cost. So I said, I don't have to record it. So he said, no, I'm not going to record the insurance on the non-current asset register. Then number 3, we have a Dell laptop. Serial number, this cost £2,000 paid in cash. Purchases 24th of May 19 from the Dell on standard commercial credit terms. So we buy on a standard commercial credit terms. So it's a hire lease or lease agreement. This one also my non-current asset and amount is 2,000. That means it is more than 300. So I said yes, we're going to record it. The next one we have, it says a second-hand scanner and printer, £50 purchase on this date paid in cash. This item has expected life of 10 months. Normally, any non-current asset, normally we use it more than 12 months. Normally, more than 12 months, any non-current asset has to be used for. And also the cost is only £50, that is less than 300. So if it is less than 300 and less than 12 months, I'm going to use it. So I'm not going to record it on the non-current asset register. I said no. The next one is says is a photocopier. A photocopier, serial number, this cost 3,525 and funded through the loan purchase on 24th of March 2019. So the cost is more than 300 and also is a photocopier. It is asset and I'm going to use it more than 1 year. So I said, yes, I have to record it on the non-current asset register. On the next section, we're going to put all this on the boxes. In the exam, you really don't have to write anything, but you have to choose from the drop down and you have to just write them out. All right, so any question from this one, activity 5, requirement A. Any question you have from anyone? No, that's fine. So can everyone write your name for the attendance on the chatting box? So let's go to number B. And you have to record all of this. The first thing we need to know, how much was the cost, how much was that, what was the date, and how much was the carrying value. The same information almost we need to fulfill for every single non-current asset. But of course, like the information could be different based on the different method of purchase and the different method of depreciation policy we have used. So let's start with the first one. The first one we can see we buy a van. So the van we can see we have here So the van is the motor van, and that's the serial number, that's the cost. So we said motor van. You have to write the serial number as well. AT. So in the exam, you have to click on this drop down to find it out which one is the right one. You really don't have to write anything. The acquisition date, the date we purchase, that is 23rd of September 19. The cost, how much we buy it for, 6,000. And the depreciation, in the first year there is no depreciation. The carrying value of funding method, the depreciation, that it didn't say anything about the depreciation, so we'll ignore this too. Funding method, let's say we buy through the loan, so we need to write the loan. Disposal, they didn't say anything about like did we sell this asset or not, so we don't have to worry about that. The next one we have a computer, because insurance will not take, so the next one will have a computer. So the computer we buy Dell laptop, so you're going to write Dell laptop with the serial number and the acquisition date 24th of May 19. 24th of May 19. The cost is £2,000. 2,000. There is no depreciation or carrying value. So the funding method, they said we buy with the commercial club. So the computer buy, we have paid in cash. So we buy in cash. So we need to say cash. Okay, the next one we have here, that is the last one, photocopier. Photocopier. And we'll buy 24th of March 2019. 24th of March 2019. And the cost is 3,525. There is no depreciation or carrying amount, and the funding method is a loan. So write the loan again. But in the exam, we have to complete some more information. For example, the depreciation charge and the carrying amount and the disposal as well. So when you do our revision, we're going to see exam type of question. So that's how we need to record this information on the non-current asset register. All right, let's move on. The next one, we have activity 6. Let's have a look at this one. Activity 6 says reconciling the non-current asset register. How to reconcile it? So Amal is trying to reconcile his general ledger to the non-current asset register. He is looking at plant and machinery. The general ledger show the cost of the plant and machinery is 102,800 and accumulated depreciation is 46,780. Plant and machinery is depreciated a straight line basis over 10 years. The non-current asset register show a plant and machinery carrying amount 60,420. So it should reconcile. So if I like to find it out, the carrying amount, it should be cost minus the accumulated depreciation. If this doesn't match, there should be a reason for that. And we have to know what is the reason behind. So if we try to find the difference between 102,800 minus the depreciation. So 102,800 minus the depreciation 46,780. That gives me 56,020. That means it's not matching. For any reason, it is not matching. So you have to know why the difference is coming, why it is not matching. It says identify whether the following statement could cause the difference or discrepancies. It's a statement: depreciation for the year was omitted from the ledger account. So depreciation, we forget to record in the ledger account. They say could have caused the discrepancy and could not. This is not the reason, because if I uh, if I have a less carrying value, that means like either I buy some non-current asset, maybe I forget to record it or something with the VAT. An acquisition of the plant and machinery was recorded, including the VAT and the non-current asset register. So this could be the possible reason. Now remember that when we recorded the non-current asset, we only take the net amount. Remember that. We never take including the VAT. For example, if we buy a non-current asset for 10,000 and we pay VAT 2,000, so total we've paid 12,000. We never take the 12,000. Remember that. We take only 10, the cost price, unless the business is not VAT registered. If the business is VAT registered business, that means they will get back the VAT. So VAT is not the cost. So we never take the VAT, you only take the net amount. For that reason, maybe if I made a mistake, if I take the VAT, maybe it will show more value. All right, let's move to the next one. Next one we have here, knowledge test preparation. So activity 7, accounting for and monitoring non-current asset. This task is test your knowledge. What is depreciation? Choose one of the suitable options. So they're saying the definition. What is depreciation? What is the definition of depreciation? Depreciation show the wear and tear of the asset. No, it is not. The systematic allocation of the depreciable amount over its useful life. This is the answer. So depreciation is basically the reduction of the value of the non-current asset. So for example, if I buy asset, I know I cannot use it forever. So let's say if I buy a computer for £1,000. So at the beginning, I have to find it out, or I have to set a standard, the useful life, how long I'm going to use this computer. Let's say if I decide I'm going to use this computer for 5 years, that means every year the depreciation will be 200. And after 5 years, the value of this asset will be 0. So I have to keep counting until the asset value goes 0. So if there is any residual value, we have to minus it from here. Residual value means after 5 years, is there any value of this asset, or is there any selling value of this asset? All right, let's move to the next one. The next one we have here. It says indicate the following statement are true or false. So let's do that. So directly attributable cost cannot be capitalized as part of the cost to a non-current asset. This is false. Directly attributable cost can be capitalized as a part of the cost. For example, the delivery cost. For example, the cost of installation, cost of the labor to fix it. So any cost that can be directly attributable cost cannot be, should be can be. Yes, it's a cannot, that's why it is false, because directly attributable cost can be part of the cost. So when I said the cost of the non-current asset, that means the purchase cost, the delivery cost, the installation cost, the legal fee, the surveyor fee, anything to make the asset ready to use, any sort of expense I need to spend, that can be the part of the cost. Then we have the depreciation. The depreciable amount is an asset is cost less residual value. That's true. So cost minus the residual value divide with the useful life, that gives me how much is the depreciation per year. So if I like to know how much is the total depreciation, that means cost minus the residual value. So this is true. Then we have when a non-current asset is disposed of, if the sales proceeds exceed the carrying amount, there will be a loss. That's false. So carrying amount, sales proceeds exceed the carrying amount. So for example, if I sell it for 1,000, if my carrying value is 1,200, remember that I'm making a loss here. But if the carrying value is, for example, 500, if my sales is 1000, and if the carrying value is 500, that means I'm making a gain of 500 profit because I'm selling for 1000. Carrying value means that right now, how much is the value of the asset? Carrying value means the current value of the asset. How we get the carrying value? Cost minus the accumulated depreciation. Depreciation is an example of accrual concept. This is absolutely true. Depreciation is an example of accrual concept. This is absolutely true. Now let's read the next one. Number C. Astra purchased a delivery van for the use in her business 31st December 2016 for 30,000 plus VAT. So he buy a van, she buy a van or he buy a van. The cost is 30,000 plus the VAT. She has a policy of depreciation in straight line 20%. If it is a straight line, we have to multiply cost minus the percentage. Cost multiply the percentage, that's it. The residual value is 20%. Residual value always has to be minus from the cost. Remember that if the question give us any residual value, we have to minus it from the cost. So the 20% is the residual value. So 30,000 times 20% is the residual value. The depreciation is a pro rata for every month the van is owned. So you have to do the depreciation monthly basis, not yearly. Astra disposed of the van 31st December 2019 by trading it against the new van. That's a part exchange. So he gave the old van to have the new one. The new van cost 37,000, but Astra only had to pay 21,500. That means the difference is because of the old van. So the new van cost is 37,000, but he only need to pay 21,000 because he gave his old van. So the difference is the value of the old van he sold it for. Calculate the annual depreciation would be charged for this van. So let's try to do that. How much will be the depreciation? So the first thing we need to calculate, so we have a 30,000 is the cost. So we need to say cost minus residual value. Residual value, there's a 20% of the cost. So 30,000 times 20% of that. And that gives me, let's have a look how much it is. Should be 6,000, 30,000 times 20%, 6,000. So that gives me 24,000. And 24,000 and the depreciation is 20% times by 20% per year. So we do 24,000 times 20%, and that gives me 4,800. And how many years? They said a straight line per residual values purchase. Is there any year they mentioned? Let's try to read once again. 30,000 in 2016 we buy, and using straight line method at 20%, assuming a residual value 20% purchase. Okay, full month. Okay, that's fine. So they didn't say anything else. So we have here 30,000 and divide by, we have a 20%. So here that gives me 4,800. Now I need to know, is there any other information we have? How long I use the van for on this and that? So we buy on December 2016 and we sold it for December 19. So how many years we have used? This is the question. So how much will be the depreciation per year? This is the question we have here. And how much will be the carrying value? So let's have a look. So if I have a depreciation 4,800 per year, and how many years we have used it? So 16 December, so 17, 18, 19. Because it's 31st of December, so you're going to start with 17. It's the end of the year. That means we count 2017, 18, and at the end of the year 19, we sold it. So 3 years. So let's calculate that. how much is the depreciation for 3 years. So we have 4,800 per year times by 3 year. So that will give me the depreciation for 3 year. That is 14,400. So the annual depreciation is for 4,800. We calculate that before, and the carrying value will be cost minus 14,400. We might have to minus the accumulated depreciation, the total depreciation. So the cost is 30,000, and you have to minus the accumulated depreciation, that is 14,400, and that will give us 15,600. And this is my carrying value, 15,600. And that's it. Complete the following sentence. Astra made a gain or profit. You need to say that. Estimate gain or loss. So if my carrying value, how much is the carrying value? Is 15,600 is the carrying value. And the selling price, let's have a look how much is the selling price. So 37,000, and I have to pay 21,500. So the difference is the selling price. 37,000 minus 21,500. That gives me the selling price 15,500. 15,500. We have a selling price here. So, and the carrying value we have here, that is 15,600. This is my disposal or proceed. And we have the carrying value, that is 15,600. So we can see the difference is 100. And this is basically the loss 100. But you can see here we don't have any 100 here with the pick list, because this is wrong here. The reason it is wrong, and they put the depreciation state line is 20%, but when you look at the answer, they use 10 years. But in the question, they didn't say anything about the 10 years, the useful life. So we didn't see anything about the 10 years of the useful life. So it says the straight line 20% per year. This is this full month. Yeah, they didn't say anything about 10 years, but by mistake, the question is using 10 years, not 20%. So they're using 10 years, so we can ignore that. So if it is 10 years, the answer will be different, 7,300. But if we use the 20%, then it will be £100 loss. But you need to know how it is work. We need to know the method, because in the exam, it's not going to be the same question. So it could be different question. We need to know how does it work. All right, so any question from this one, from anyone? Don't have any question from this one? Everyone happy with that? Okay, that's fine. So let's move to the next section. I think this is the end of our chapter. There are some double entry that we need to know, and this is will be our end of our chapter number 5.